Ready? Go ahead, sir. Okay. Good morning. I'd like to welcome you to the Development Service Department hearing for April 28th, 2021. My name is Duke Fernandez. I'm the hearing officer with Development Service Department. Joining us remotely today is Deputy City Attorney Noah Brazier and Edith Gutierrez, who is sitting to my right, representing Development Service Department Project Management Division. Now, Ms. Gutierrez with a brief public service announcement.
Good morning. Until further notice, hearing officer meetings will be conducted under the provisions of the California Executive Order 2920, which dispenses specific requirements of the Ralph Brown Act. During the current state of emergency and in the interest of public health and safety, the hearing officer meetings will be conducted virtually using the Zoom webinar platform. Per the executive order, there will be no members of the public in physical attendance at this meeting. In lieu of in-person attendance, members of the public may participate and provide comment via a virtual meeting, telephone, using the hearing officer web form located on Development Services Department Hearing Officer webpage, email submission, or via U.S. mail of written materials to the hearing officer as noted on the webpage. The public may view the hearing officer meeting at the scheduled date and time of the City of San Diego's YouTube website, City of San Diego Public Hearings. Members of the public can offer public comment on non-agenda or an agenda item by accessing the meeting online using a desktop computer, laptop, tablet, or smartphone, or by calling into the meeting. When the hearing officer introduces the item you would like to comment on, raise your hand by either tapping the raise your hand button on your computer, tablet, or smartphone, or by dialing *9 on your phone. You will be taken in the order in which you raise your hand. You may only speak once on a particular item. When the hearing officer indicates it's your turn to speak, click on the unmute prompt that will appear on your computer, tablet, or smartphone, or dial *6 on your phone. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gutierrez. Okay. This morning, I'll be considering applications for development permits that the San Diego Municipal Code identifies for resolution by a hearing officer in accordance with Decision Process 3, as referenced in section 112.0501 of the Land Development Code. The decisions made on projects today may be appealed to the Planning Commission. The appeals must be filed by the close of business within 10 working days from today's date. That means the appeal must be filed by May 12th, 2021. The appeal must be filed on the proper forms located online at the Development Service Department website. Additionally, the certification of environmental documents may be appealed to the City Council. The appeal must also be filed within 10 working days. That appeal must be filed on the proper forms, which are available from the City Clerk's website. All of the approvals will become effective 10 working days from today's date, as long as no appeals are filed. However, no building permits may be obtained until the permits and resolutions are signed, notarized, and returned to Development Service Department for recordation with the county recorder. Prior to today's hearing, I've reviewed all staff reports, environmental documents, draft findings and conditions, and all written correspondence. I've also visited each site. Just a reminder, keep your mics muted until called upon to speak. So let's get started. Public comment. Is there anyone that would like to speak on an issue within the jurisdiction of the hearing officer that is not related to one of the projects on today's docket? Give a second. Anybody that wants to speak, public comment, raise your hand. Okay, I'm seeing none, hearing none. Okay, are there any requests for continuances or withdrawals? You can raise your hand if you want to speak on that. Seeing none, hearing none. Okay. Let's move on. There will be a consent agenda for projects with no speakers in opposition and no questions from the hearing officer. So I'm going to try to see, do we have any, I'm going to build this agenda as we go. Item number 1, do we have any speakers in opposition against item number 1? No? Okay, I want to acknowledge. How about any speakers in favor that want to go on the record for item number 1? your mic? No? I want to acknowledge that we did receive a correspondence on behalf of the Alliance, Supporters for Alliance of Environmental Responsibility, and they are in support. So just for the record. Also, Mr. Johnson, I believe you have a memo.
Yes, I sent you the memo to add additional conditions from the MHPA and MSCP area for the vernal pool mitigation and monitoring. But I also have 2 additional conditions I would like to read into the record today.
Please. Go ahead.
And if I can share my screen, I can put it up. The first one is from Caltrans, and it reads, prior to commencement of any grading activities, the owner permittee shall demonstrate to the city engineer that Caltrans hydraulics branch comments have been satisfied by way of providing written approval of the proposed design by Caltrans staff. In addition, the engineering section also would like to add an additional condition that reads, prior to the issuance of any building permit, construction permits, the owner permittee must enter into a stormwater management and discharge control maintenance agreement, which will be recorded in the property records of the county, satisfactory to the city engineer. And that is the only additional conditions I have, as well as the memo.
Okay, did you want to read some of the memo into the record, or are you good?
I'm fine with that, with the memo.
Okay. All right. And there's no other reason that this item cannot be placed on the consent agenda?
No, sir, there is not.
Okay, project 649192, the Kearney Mesa Logistics SDP, site development permit 2350105. I hereby adopt mitigated negative declaration 649192, which has been prepared in accordance with the California Environmental Quality Act. And that document reflects the independent judgment of the city of San Diego as lead agency. The information contained in the environmental document has been reviewed and considered prior to making this decision. Furthermore, I hereby adopt the mitigation monitoring and reporting program. I can make findings necessary to approve project 649192, site development permit 2350105, subject to the conditions contained in the staff report. This decision is final unless appealed to the Planning Commission. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Have a good day.
Thank you. Okay. Item number 2. Do we have any speakers in favor or in opposition of item number 2, which is the loophole map waiver? Raise your hand, unmute your mic. Oh, it looks like I have no speakers on item number 2. Last chance, anybody? In favor for the record? Opposing?
I'm in favor for the record, sir. This is Maggie Rowland.
Okay, did you want to speak on the item or you just want to go on the record that you're in favor of it?
Just on the record, in favor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, Mr. Cleveland, is there any reason that this item cannot be placed on the consent agenda?
No, sir, there is not. However, there is one condition I would like to add to the project for the record. If I may share my screen.
Please.
So this project is in the state coastal development permit jurisdiction. During project review, we had determined that there was a coastal development permit for the building, and there was not one for the map waiver. So this condition should be included because the map waiver requires a coastal development permit. It says prior to the recordation of the certificate of compliance, the project shall obtain a coastal development permit or equivalent from the California Coastal Commission.
Hang on a second. Sorry about that. We're
They can't,
It's the
yeah,
other
they
way.
can't see it.
It's the other way. Keep going. The other way. There we go.
That's as far as it.
There we go.
Wait, hold on.
We might need to get closer.
Okay.
Sorry, we're trying to get our
They don't see
situation here.
that. They don't see that. They only see Travis's screen.
Okay, okay.
We can see your screen, Travis.
Okay,
So we're working out some issues there, sorry. Could you do that again, please, Travis?
share again.
I was distracted.
Okay. The condition is prior to the recordation of the certificate of compliance, the project shall obtain a coastal development permit or equivalent from the California Coastal Commission. The equivalent could potentially be a no effect letter.
Okay. And there's no other reason this can be put on consent.
No, sir, there is not. Okay.
Project number 672037, the Lupo map waiver. Tentative map waiver 2474727. Pursuant to section 15305 of the California Environmental Quality Act. The project is exempt from environmental review, and I do recognize that exemption. The project is not pending an appeal of the environmental determination. That determination was made on February 5th, 2021, and the opportunity to appeal that determination ended February 19th, 2021. Very good. I continue. I can make the findings necessary to approve project 672037, tentative map waiver 2474727, subject to the conditions contained in the staff report. This decision is final unless appealed to the Planning Commission. Thank you.
Excuse me, I have a question.
Who's this?
This is Dominic Lupo, I'm the applicant for this item.
Okay.
I'd like to know more about this condition. It's the first we've seen. We've been in for review with the city for several months. We're very close to finishing this project, and I don't know what this means in terms of schedule. When we went to the Coastal Commission for the building, that was a several-month ordeal. And if this is going to push out finishing this project, I need to know that. And I'm just curious why this condition came up now after several rounds of reviews and months of coordination with the city on this map waiver.
Mr. Lupo, this is Travis Cleveland, your project manager. During project review, it was determined that your project had a coastal development permit. However, in getting ready for the hearing this morning, I was not able to determine that that also applied to the map waiver portion of the project. A map waiver also requires an action from the California Coastal Commission. If your existing coastal development permit does address the map waiver, then you have already satisfied this condition. If it does not, then you would need to obtain one from the Coastal Commission prior to us being able to approve your certificate of compliance.
All right, I understand all of that, but from a timing standpoint, if we have to go back to Coastal Commission and go through their entire process, because we didn't bring anything up about a map waiver to Coastal Commission before, it was just about the building and the reconstruction. So I expect that the current coastal permit we have does not address the map waiver.
Mr. Lupo, I understand your concern. May I request that we discuss this offline? This condition will be required to be addressed, and I can help work with you to address the timeline.
Okay, because honestly, every month that pushes it out, we're talking about tens of thousands of dollars in costs to the project that could have been avoided had we known this previously. So that's my concern.
I definitely understand. I'll talk to you after the hearing and we'll figure this out. I'll give you a call.
I appreciate it, Travis. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. All right. Moving on. The College View Apartments. Do we have any speakers on the College View Apartments in favor or opposed? Raise your hand, unmute your mic.
Mr. Fernandez, this is Travis Cleveland. I'm also the project manager for this item. I know that we do have the applicant and his team online. They could potentially speak in favor if it's requested or required of them. I'm not
Okay.
aware of anyone else.
I'm just checking, giving everybody a chance. Any speakers in opposition of the College View Apartments? 85 of them? Anybody? Okay. Yeah, I'm ready. Okay. I did receive a correspondence. Ms. Richardson, are you online there? Or we're going to come back to the College View Apartments, Travis. Just because of the correspondence I received.
Understood.
She's got a couple concerns. Okay. That brings us to item number 4. Project number 651186, the 3556 Bayside Walk CDP. Do we have any speakers in favor or in opposition of this project?
Jeffrey Thaxton, the architect on the project, voicing in favor for the record.
Okay. Did you want to speak?
No, just for the record.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other
Thank you.
speakers for the Bayside Walk CDP? If you wish to speak in favor or in opposition, raise your hand and unmute your mic. Okay, doesn't look like I have any other speakers. One in favor. I can put this on the consent agenda. Ms. Flores, is there any reason that this item cannot be placed on the consent agenda?
There is not, Mr. Fernandez.
Okay. All right, project 651186, the 3856 Bayside Walk CDP, Coastal Development Permit 2363476, pursuant to section 15301 and 15303 of the California Environmental Quality Act. The project is exempt from environmental review, and I do recognize that exemption. The project is not pending an appeal of the environmental determination. That determination was made on March 1st, 2021, and the opportunity to appeal that determination ended March 13th, 2021. I can make all the findings necessary to approve project 651186, CDP 2363476, subject to the conditions contained in the staff report. This decision is final unless appealed to the Planning Commission. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's go back to item number 3. That concludes the consent agenda. All right. Okay, here we go. Item number 3, project 646497, the College View Apartments, site development permit 2343282, and neighborhood development permit 2351788. The city's project manager is Travis Cleveland. Mr. Cleveland, could you please provide the staff report?
Yes, sir. everybody. This is Travis Cleveland, Development Project Manager for the College View Apartments project. Just before I get started, I'd like to take a brief moment to point out how to call in and make phone-in testimony for this item. I'll leave this up for a few more seconds. Okay. Good morning, hearing officer and members of the public. My name is Travis Cleveland. I'm project manager of the College View Apartments project. The 2.39 acre project site is located at 5420 55th Street in the RM39 and RS11 zones within the college area community plan. Development takes place on the RM39 portion of the site with a very small portion of the pool deck in the RS11 zone.
Mr. Cleveland?
Yeah.
Yes.
Just a brief interruption. Are you trying to share your screen?
Yes, sir, I am.
We are not seeing it.
I just.
I apologize. I'll start over.
Okay. Okay. Looks
All
like
right.
we're in business.
It seems I should probably leave this up again for a moment then. I apologize for that, ladies and gentlemen. This is how to call in on the College View Apartments item, project number 646497.
Right, do that.
All right, so as we heard me say but didn't see before, I am Travis Cleveland, project manager of the College View Apartments project. The site's located at 5420 55th Street in the RM39 and RS11 zones within the college area community plan. Development takes place on the RM39 portion of the site with a portion of the pool deck and equipment located in RS11. Here we see an aerial photograph of the current project site. The eastern portion of the site is currently developed with a 32-unit apartment complex that would be demolished by the project, while the western portion contains surface parking and an undeveloped area. The site also contains associated hardscape, landscape, and a pool. The site contains environmentally sensitive lands in the form of steep hillsides and sensitive biological resources. This block of 55th Street is not a through street. It ends right here north of the project site. The site's bordered to the north by multiple dwelling unit development, to the east by San Diego State University buildings, including the International Student Center, which is here, and to the south by the Washkayak Hall, an SDSU residence hall. I had to look up how to say that. Due to its proximity to SDSU and related amenities, the project site and the surrounding neighborhood serve primarily the residential needs of SDSU students. All adjacent land on 55th Street within the city's jurisdiction in this neighborhood shares the same high-density residential land use designation. Oops. And all apartments north of the project site are owned by Aztec Shops and are used for student housing. So it's not San Diego State University, but it is owned by a university-related entity. West of the site, separated by a canyon and open space, is a single dwelling unit neighborhood, which is designated low density residential in the community plan. So the College Area Community Plan designates the site high density residential, 45 to 75 dwelling units per acre. The 55th Street sub-area further states that this area will be redeveloped residentially as a faculty, staff, and student housing area at medium to medium high density. The project provides 90 units, which is approximately 67.6 dwelling units per acre, achieving the goals of the land use designation and the sub area. Just a few pictures. Here is the existing building on the site as shown from the southeast from 55th Street and Canyon Crest Drive. If you were to go down the road, Canyon Crest Drive behind me, you're going to the SDSU campus. On the top left, we see the existing building from the north or the right side as you stand on 55th Street. To the bottom right, we see the rear of the existing building. Looking out from the same vantage point at the rear of the existing building, we see nearby SDSU resident halls, Washkayak Hall, currently under construction here in this photo, but it is finished now. And Chapultepec, I believe this one is 12 stories and this one is 5 stories. On the bottom right, we see the project from the west with the adjacent natural area. The project proposes the demolition of an existing building, pool, and surface parking, and the construction of a 6-story, 90-unit, 175,667 square foot apartment building with 1-story subterranean parking garage on a 2.39 acre site. The project would contain 15 one-bedroom units, 5 two-bedroom units, 4 3-bedroom units, and 66 4-bedroom units, as well as a leasing office, lobby, and a 953 square foot fitness center. The project would also include a courtyard and a pool and spa. The building is designed to be architecturally compatible with adjacent residential construction in nearby San Diego State University buildings. It'll consist of wood frame construction, stucco, metal siding, stone veneer, aluminum storefront doors and windows, metal awnings, and glass railings. The project will construct a 20-foot wide driveway, and it will also construct new sidewalks adjacent to the site on 55th Street. As people may be aware, multiple dwelling unit projects constructed in multiple dwelling unit zones do not generally require a discretionary permit. However, the project requires 2 discretionary permits due to its characteristics and location, as shown in your staff report. It requires a Process 3 site development permit for multiple dwelling unit development on a premises containing environmentally sensitive lands, and a Process 2 neighborhood development permit for 3 deviations to development standards on an infill site. I will discuss the deviations shortly. So the project site contains environmentally sensitive lands in the form of steep slopes and sensitive biological resources. The project does not propose to develop in the area of natural steep slopes on site. The project would be required to mitigate for 0.25 acres of mixed chaparral. Impacts to that sensitive vegetation would be mitigated by the on-site preservation of 0.78 acres of sensitive vegetation, requiring an MHPA boundary line adjustment prior to issuance of any permits. Preserved habitat areas on the site would all be within the boundaries of the adjusted MHPA. The boundary line adjustment received city and state wildlife agency concurrence in November 2020. Preserved habitat areas on the site would be located within the boundaries of the adjusted MHPA, which would increase on site from 0.662 acres as shown here. You can see this area is currently being affected by the proposed development. And the proposed MHPA on the site would grow in size to 0.96 acres and would be preserved with an easement. Oops, apologies. The project also requests a neighborhood development permit for 3 deviations to zoning,
Okay.
to zoning regulations.
Sorry.
Second.
Everybody, I'm hearing some crosstalk. If you could please mute your mics. Thank you. The project also requests a neighborhood development permit for 3 deviations to zoning regulations on an infill site. These deviations are a building height of 82 feet where 60 feet is otherwise required by the RM39 zone. The elimination of private open space in favor of 11,250 square feet of common open space, and deviations to front setback requirements. The first deviation is requested to allow the project to provide a mix of unit sizes while aiding it in accommodating the dwelling unit range specified by the community plan.
Hold up, Travis. If somebody's got their mic on, you need to mute your mics unless you're called upon to speak. So we have a project manager giving his presentation and we're hearing some feedback. Please mute your mics so we can continue. Go ahead, Mr. Cleveland.
Thank you. The first deviation to building height is requested to allow the project to provide a mix of unit sizes while aiding it in accommodating the dwelling unit range specified by the community plan, as well as minimizing encroachment into environmentally sensitive lands by allowing the project to develop up rather than out. These apartments are being designed for the needs of college students attending nearby SDSU per the recommendations of the college area community plan. A mix of 1, 2, 3, and 4 bedroom units will provide the flexibility to accommodate a wide array of student living situations. A 60-foot building height typically allows 4 residential stories. 2 nearby buildings already exceed this limit, as I mentioned. The adjacent Washkayak Hall at 5 stories, which is directly adjacent to the project site and sits atop a retaining wall that further increases the height when viewed from certain vantage points. And Chapultepec Hall at 12 stories. Without this deviation, it would be more difficult for the project to achieve even the minimum community plan densities with the desired unit mix. The second deviation is the elimination of private open space in favor of 11,250 square feet of common open space. In lieu of this space, the project will provide centralized recreation amenities, including a courtyard, pool area, and indoor fitness center. This deviation also aids the project in supporting community plan goals. Unit design and placement can be more flexible without the need to accommodate this private outdoor space. What's more, by centralizing recreation areas into amenities such as a courtyard, pool area, and indoor fitness center, this deviation facilitates a greater unit count. And the elimination of outdoor private open space also enhances the ability for on-site staff to manage outdoor space, which will provide greater control over noise generation and resident safety. This deviation has been approved in similar projects within this area. And with this deviation, residents will still have the ability to recreate. The project will reduce or eliminate potential noise sources during quiet hours by facilitating security and monitoring of recreational spaces by facility staff. The third deviation is to the front setback requirements of the RM39 zone. The RM39 zone has a minimum 10-foot and a standard 20-foot front setback. Up to 50% of the facade can be at the minimum, and the rest is required to observe the standard. The existing building to be demolished currently encroaches into this setback. The project requests that the proposed project be allowed to maintain this existing condition, which is also similar to existing development to the north and south. Relief from this setback requirement allows the project to provide a mix of unit sizes while accommodating the dwelling unit range specified by the community plan and minimizing encroachment into environmentally sensitive lands. As shown, the smallest proposed front setback is 13 feet. There is up to 73% of the building facade that observes this 13-foot setback. Approximately 23% of it that should be at least at the 20-foot is not. There is architectural variation along the front facade that provides a maximum front setback of approximately 28 feet. Therefore, the deviation meets the intent of the regulations while accommodating the project's unit count and unit size needs. Mitigated negative declaration 646497 has been prepared for this project in accordance with the State of California Environmental Quality Act guidelines. And a draft was circulated for public comment from February 19th to March 22nd, 2021. This document identified potentially significant impacts to biological resources and land use within the MHPA multi-habitat planning area, which were previously discussed and are addressed through project design, project conditions, and a mitigation monitoring and reporting program, which will reduce any potential impacts to below a level of significance. This document is supported by individual studies on water quality, noise, geology, biology, waste management, and historical resources. On January 13th, 2021, the College Area Community Council voted 13-6 to recommend denial of the project. I noticed this morning as I was getting ready for the hearing that I included the blank community planning group forms with your packet today, not the filled out ones I received from the CPG chair. However, my report and presentation do address the vote as given. Their concerns were as follows. They voted 13-6 to recommend denial of the project. They were concerned that the height limit is 67% over what the community plan allows, that the pool deck excessively encroaches into the canyon, eliminating native habitat below the deck. The recommendation at the College Area Community Council was to eliminate the deck, entirely saving the native habitat below, and provide residents shared access to the university pool within walking distance of the site. Their third objection was that the noise study provided did not adequately accommodate noise impacts on the residents living along the rim of the canyon, and that no traffic mitigation study or light mitigation study were provided for review. These concerns are addressed in detail in your staff report. However, I would like to briefly discuss them. Regarding concern 1, page 45 of the community plan does discuss limiting development to 4 stories. However, story height isn't defined. Using an average story height of approximately 15 feet, this would be around a 60-foot height limit. This is the current height limit of the RM39 zone. Regardless, it's not clear where the 67% comes from. Most of the project is approximately at most 33% taller than 60 feet. This deviation allows the project to meet community plan density goals within a range of unit sizes, to be similar in height to nearby SDSU dormitories, and to fit into the existing development context of the area. Regarding concern number 2, the project does impact sensitive biology, but it preserves a larger portion of it on site, which mitigates this impact. Furthermore, although it's not possible to quantify, there would still be impacts even if the pool deck was removed. The brush management zone, brush management would impact the resource. Number 3, there was a noise study provided. It didn't identify any impacts to adjacent residents. No alternative study was promulgated or discussed by the community planning group. Regarding the traffic mitigation study, a traffic study was not required by the city, and no alternative study was discussed by the community planning group. No study was required because the project is presumed to have a less than significant vehicle miles traveled impact, as discussed in your staff report, and transportation staff are here to address any questions. Regarding a light mitigation study, no study is required by the city, and no alternative study was discussed by the CPG. The city has regulations on outdoor lighting and building materials that the project will be required to observe during construction. Draft findings have been prepared in the affirmative, and staff finds the project consistent with the recommended land use, development regulations, and development standards in effect for the site per the San Diego Municipal Code, General Plan, and the College Area Community Plan. Staff has provided draft findings and conditions of approval to support the proposed project. Staff recommends that the hearing officer approve the project as proposed. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, nice presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to open this up for public comment. Do we have speakers? I'd like to start off with Susan Richardson, which I received a correspondence. I will summarize her correspondence if she's not available to speak. Do we have Miss Richardson? Okay.
Mr. Hearing Officer, you are muted, sir.
Sorry about that. Okay, let's try this again. So I have a correspondence from Mrs. Susan Richardson. She expresses concerns with a couple of issues. Noise from the proposed cantilever pool deck. She suggests that the pool deck be put on the other side of the building. Their primary concern with the pool deck is the noise from the community recreation space generated that can be heard across the canyon. They're also requesting that the noise ordinance of 10 p.m. be written into the conditions of the project with any future owner. And also, she is concerned about the height and requests that the project be denied based on the height. Wants it to fit the 60-foot level. That summarizes it. So noise and height are her issues. Do we have any other speakers in favor of
Yes,
this project? Who's this?
yes, this is Neil Singer, Mr. Fernandez. I represent the applicant PEP JSW SDSU LLC. And I wanted to commend staff for a very thorough report. Just to a couple of issues to address Ms. Richardson's comments. The pool deck is planned to also have a 5-foot high glass enclosure at the canyon side that would further mitigate any noise. And the noise study itself didn't indicate any impacts to the adjoining property owners. In terms of the height, not only is the height that we're proposing similar to the height of the adjacent SDSU dorm, but the street also slopes downward from the dorm adjacent to our site. So the profile would appear lower than the adjacent property. We concur with staff's recommendations and we ask you to approve the project and adopt the mitigating negative deck.
All right, thank you, Mr. Singer. Okay, do I have any other speakers in favor? Please raise your hand, unmute your mic. Speakers in favor? Okay, I'm hearing none and seeing none. How about speakers in opposition? Do we have any speakers in opposition? Raise your hand, unmute your mic. Now would be the time. Okay, I'm hearing none and seeing none. So just for the record, with that one correspondence with the two issues, that is the opposition. All right, I'm going to close public comment. I really have no questions. I liked how everything was addressed in the report. I feel like the height is just going to blend into the surrounding development, accommodate more housing for the students. As far as the noise going across the canyon, if it gets out of control, I could say you could always contact STPD for a noise complaint. Other than that, it's all the way across the canyon, and I have no true evidence that that will impact the single-family zone across the canyon. So based on the evidence and testimony, I can make the findings necessary to approve this project. I hereby adopt mitigated negative declaration 646497, which has been prepared in accordance with the California Environmental Quality Act. And that document reflects the independent judgment of the City of San Diego's lead agency. The information contained in the environmental document has been reviewed and considered prior to making this decision. Furthermore, I hereby adopt the mitigation monitoring and reporting program. I can make findings necessary to approve project 646497, SDP 2343282, and NDP 2351788, subject to the conditions contained in the staff report. This decision is final unless appealed to the Planning Commission. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Which brings us to our last item. All right, item number 5, project number 665588, the Bakery Sorrento Cannabis Outlet CUP CDP. Conditional use permit 2437097 and coastal development permit 2527091. The city's project manager is Sammy Ma. Ms. Ma, could you please provide the staff report?
Sure.
Can you hear me, Ms. Ma?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Great. Are you able to see the screen?
I can. You're good to go.
Great. This project is 665588 Bakery Sorrento Cannabis Outlet CUP and CDP. If you would like to speak on this project, please follow the instruction as displayed. I'll provide a few moments.
I'll leave it up there for a minute.
Okay.
Give everybody a chance to call in if they want to.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead and start.
Okay. Sure. Good morning, Mr. Fernandez and members of the public. My name is Sammy Ma, Development Project Manager for project number 665588, Cannabis Outlet at a Bakery Sorrento Cannabis Outlet, CUP and CDP. The project is a request for conditional use permit CUP and coastal development permit CDP to allow the operation of a 5,412 square foot cannabis outlet in Suite A within an existing 6,676 square foot commercial building located at 11330 Sorrento Valley Road. The 1.4 acre project site is in the IL31 Industrial Light Zone, Prime Industrial Lands, and Transit Priority Area within the Torrey Pines Community Plan Area. The Torrey Pine Community The Torrey Pines Community Plan designates the project site as industrial, which allows industrial, retail, and commercial uses. The project requires a CUP to operate the cannabis outlet as well as a CDP due to the intensification of use resulting from the proposed change in use from office to retail. The existing commercial building currently contains 2 suites. Suite A is the proposed cannabis outlet, and Suite B is being used as an executive suite by a separate tenant. Cannabis outlets are limited to no more than 4 per council district, totaling 36 citywide. A total of 4 CUPs for cannabis outlets were originally approved in Council District 1. However, one of the approved CUPs was canceled on April 8th, 2012, pursuant to San Diego Municipal Code 126.0110, which states that a permit holder may request cancellation of a development permit at any time before utilization of the permit. Staff determined that CUP number 2038237 located at 11189 Sorrento Valley Road was not utilized, and at the request by the permit holder, the CUP was canceled. Therefore, there are currently 3 cannabis outlets located in Council District 1, which are SDRC, Torrey Holistics, and MedMen. There is capacity for 1 additional cannabis outlet to be approved in this council district. On February 26, 2021, the project was determined to be categorically exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, pursuant to CEQA Section 15301, existing facilities. No appeal of the environmental determination was filed. On April 15, 2021, the Torrey Pines Community Planning Board voted 9-0 to recommend denial of the proposed project due to the board's concerns and opinion that the project does not comply with the industrial element of the Torrey Pines Community Plan's policies, as well as concerns with the proposed development plans. The Torrey Pines Community Plan contains a policy that states development of freestanding retail commercial uses in industrially designed areas shall be restricted to those uses that serve only the immediate Sorrento Valley industrial area. Although the proposed cannabis outlet is not considered as freestanding retail, as the existing structure is occupied by other non-retail commercial use, the project's trade area analysis included in the vehicle's mile travel screening analysis demonstrated that the proposed project would satisfy the locally serving retail criteria per the City of San Diego Transportation Manual. Back to the slide. The project was reviewed to be in compliance with San Diego Municipal Code Section 1410504A, which requires cannabis outlets to have a 1,000-foot separation from resource and population city parks, other cannabis outlets, churches, childcare centers, playgrounds, libraries owned by City of San Diego, minor-oriented facilities, residential care facilities, and schools. In addition, there is a minimum distance requirement of 100 feet from all residentially zoned property. Staff has determined that the proposed cannabis outlet complies with the minimum separation requirement between uses. Proposed cannabis outlet is subject to specific operational and security requirement as set forth in the Muni Code Section 1410504B through M, such as signage, lighting, security measures, hours of operation, site maintenance, and other security items. Cannabis outlets must also comply with Chapter 4, Article 2, Division 15 of the Muni Code, which require annual background checks, annual operating permit, and other requirements for lawful operations. In conclusion, staff has reviewed the proposed project including all the issues identified through the review process, and has determined that all project issues have been addressed. The project conforms with the community plan, the adopted city council policies and regulations of the Land Development Code. Draft findings and conditions of approval are presented to hearing officer for consideration. Staff recommends the hearing officer approve conditional use number 2437097 and coastal development permit number 2527091. This concludes staff presentation. Applicant's team, city staff, and I are available for any questions you may have. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, we're going to open this up for public comment. I do want to acknowledge two correspondents. First correspondence is from Gina Austin. I'm sure she's going to want to speak, so I'm not going to read it, and I'll let her speak to it. I have another correspondence from Peggy Walker. What's that? Well, it says, the correspondence says Peggy Walker. Please correct me if I'm wrong. She wants to speak, so we're going to give her a chance to speak. If not, then I'll read this into the record. All right, so do we have any speakers in favor?
Yes, Hearing Officer Fernandez.
Can you stop sharing your screen? There you go, thank you. Okay, who do we have first?
This is Gina Austin, and I am on behalf of the applicant would like to speak in favor.
Okay. Do you have an organized presentation that's going to require more than 3 minutes?
I do have a presentation, and I do have people who are ceding time to me, and I can provide those names to you.
Are these people present on the call?
Yes, they are.
Okay, how many of them?
I don't expect I'm going to need all of them, but I have 5 of them. I think I will only need 2 or 3 of them, but I'm going to give you their names, if that is okay.
Yeah, please.
Phil Rath, Kwa Win, Steve Jones, Alan Austin, and then Brandon Johnson, and he's listed under the attendees and not panelists as BJ. And I can have them raise their hand or confirm that they would.
Yeah,
that
they all
seated.
raise their hand.
Okay.
Make sure we have all 5 of them there. There we go. Looks like we're all in order. All right, the floor is yours, Ms. Austin.
Thank you very much. And I would like to be able to share my screen. Is that okay?
Yes, please.
Okay. Good morning, hearing officer, staff, and the public. My name is Gina Austin, and I'm joined on this call with the applicant and the design team to provide additional information in support of this project. We believe that staff has done an excellent job in analyzing this project and has provided you detailed information. But as with all cannabis outlets, there is always a lot of conversation to be had. And so I would like to provide you with some additional information. I'm assuming that, or I heard that you have the letter and that you've read the letter, so I won't repeat that verbatim, but I do want to go through some specifics to help provide some additional context. As staff indicated, that this is a 6,676 square foot building, and the cannabis outlet is going to occupy 5,412 square feet, and the executive suites will occupy 643 square feet. And as you can see on the towards the front of the building, that is where the executive suites, I'll show you a floor plan in a second, and the cannabis outlet is to the back of the building, and the parking is behind that. So on the far right of your screen would be where Sereno Valley Road is. So from the street looking towards the building, here's the building. The right-hand side of this building is the executive suites. They're currently there. There is a tenant. We may have a different tenant, but at all times it'll be somebody who is not opposed to cannabis and is not part of the business that we're operating. The parking is down the street and to the rear. So while there have been concerns from the Planning Commission that it's not screened, or not Planning Commission, Planning Group, This is consistent with the requirements that the parking is screened from the road, and it is consistent with the community plan. So the floor plan, staff showed you a copy of the floor plan. I just want to walk through a little bit because I think it's important to understand where things are. This over here, this is sideways. Back here, you see the check-in for the coming in on either side of the secure entrances to check in and have their IDs checked. This is the retail dispenser area in this area. All of the standard security features for storage of cannabis and storage of non-cannabis materials are here. There's a break room and a security office manager. These areas right here, this is the office, not a part of the project. This is the executive suites. The project is consistent with the security features that have been adopted by the state of California, as well as by the city of San Diego. There is 24-hour video surveillance. That surveillance is kept for 90 days minimum so that it can be accessed by the Bureau of Cannabis Control, as well as by the city. There is an on-site security guard. There's lighting to ensure with CPTD requirements. There's electric card readers to limit access to limited areas, and there's secure storage for the storage of cannabis. All right, this map you have seen as it's attached to my letter, as well as Ms. Ma had it in her presentation. But I do want to just identify a little bit on here because this has been a concern from the community planning group. And we have done the measurements and we have taken additional time to look and talk with our consultants as to make sure that the Hammer Prep and Coast Volleyball are outside of the 1,000-foot radius. The two businesses that are within the 1,000-foot radius are excluded pursuant to the municipal code because they are not the primary use of the building. So there are no sensitive uses within the 1,000-foot area. So the biggest concerns have been from the community planning group, and there have been concerns that this is inconsistent with the Torrey Pines community plan. This is factually inaccurate. There are multiple ways in which this is consistent with the plan, which I want to discuss briefly and then discuss some of their concerns. First is that the industrial element wants to encourage alternative modes of transportation. This project does that by adding additional short-term and long-term bicycle racks, additional parking spaces for van pools and electronic vehicles. It is a great site. Most of the cannabis facilities within the city of San Diego are barely parked or underparked, some might say. I wouldn't say that, but there are parking issues in a lot of them. This site has almost it's well over 2 times, almost 3 times the amount of parking that's required. So there will not be any parking issues, and we have plenty of space to add additional facilities or additional van pool and access. There's also easy access through bicycling and mass transit. There is a proposal to install bicycle loop detectors on the northbound approach simply because it's part of the plan going forward with the city. So it's part of the striping improvement project. And it's also serviced by the coaster, which has multiple lines, and it's less than a mile away. The industrial element goal wants to minimize impacts on environmentally sensitive resources, including Los Penasquitos Lagoon. And this project is within an existing developed building. There are minor interior improvements, no exterior improvements, and so it absolutely meets this goal. It's also consistent with the overall plan. The industrial development in Sereno Valley includes retail uses. And I think that's very important. It's in the community plan on page 79, and we want to make sure that the hearing officer is aware of that. And finally, the employment goal of the community plan. Cannabis retail facilities provide a large number of jobs throughout the community, and these are local jobs, and they encourage commerce within the San Diego region. Finally, While we are aware that there will be comments from the public related to traffic or whether this project is locally serving, it's important to note that in the record are the studies from London Motor Associates as well as Mark Mizuta Traffic Consulting. And the applicant has spent a lot of time and money getting analyses to ensure that there are no traffic impacts and that there are no and that it does meet the VMT requirements and that it is locally serving to meet those requirements. There is no contrary information in the record, and we want to make sure that we have not provided additional copies at this time, but staff has them, and I do not know whether they've been given to the hearing officer. But those studies conclude without a doubt that there is no CEQA impact on it is locally serving pursuant to the vehicle's miles traveled, and there's no traffic impacts in terms of the local mobility analysis. And for these reasons, the project is consistent with the zoning ordinance, the community plan, the general plan, and each of the findings for the CUP and CDP can be made. We request that the hearing officer adopt staff's recommendation and approve this project, and we are here and available to answer any questions you have.
All right, thank you. Okay, do we have all right, do we have any other speakers in favor? Please raise your hand. I see 2 hands, but I think you conceded your time to Ms. Austin. Are there any other speakers, new speakers, that want to speak in favor of this project? Raise your hand and unmute your mic. Okay, I don't see any other speakers wanting to talk. Who's that? Adam, is that? Stacy, who's that, Adam?
I'm here to speak in opposition, Mr. Fernandez.
Okay. All right, let's get into it. Speakers in opposition, we'll go with you first, Adam.
Mr. Fernandez, Hearing Officer Fernandez, thank you very much for allowing me to participate in this. I'm here representing the Torrey Pines Community Planning Board. First, I'd like to say, please don't be distracted by the applicant's contention that this is not a freestanding building. Simply to carve out a few hundred square feet. Well, in this case, it's 600 square feet out of a building that is almost 6,000 square feet really is just a distortion of the facts. That said, approving a project solely based on compliance with the underlying industrial zoning undermines the community plan's vision and policies for the Sorrento Valley industrial area. And while the staff report appears to be thorough, consider the possibility that it is wrong in its evaluation of the compliance with our community plan. Recognizing that zoning designations, the city's own general plan recognizes that zoning designations need to be simplified in order to apply common nomenclature throughout the city's various sub-areas, of which there are 52. But due to the unique characteristics of each sub-area, the community plans offer their more detailed land use designations and site-specific policy recommendations to review and assess both private and public development projects, recognizing that these differences exist. Our community plan recognizes this relationship and has specific policies and recommendations with regard to commercial development and specifically state that the intent is to limit commercial development within the industrial designated properties. Now, these limitations on commercial development are addressed in policy number 1, which staff thoroughly addressed. But our issue, and let me just restate the policy for the record. Policy number 1 states the development of freestanding retail commercial uses in industrial designated areas, and I emphasize this next section, shall be restricted to those uses that serve only the immediate Sorrento Valley industrial area. And now one only needs to further read the industrial element to understand that Per the community plan's goals, this means to limit uses to industrial or to those uses that directly support it in order to preserve the prime industrial lands for industrial users. Staff's compliance determination is based upon the false premise that this retail project is locally serving. The applicant just mentioned their VMT analysis, which we didn't even hear of until we read the hearing officer report. But reading the statements that are made regarding this report, this appears to be a conclusion based on a market analysis whereby it's noted that due to the presence of 3 other cannabis outlets in the area, drawing market share away from this particular project, the market, therefore, for this one will be limited to a 3-mile radius. And that's how they consider it to be local serving. So even though it's locally serving, it has nothing to do with serving the industrial users as envisioned by our plan. This is not a pro-con marijuana issue. That's already been resolved at the state and local issue. This is a land use compatibility issue, and the project, in our opinion, does not comply. Prime industrial lands are limited in this sub-area, which is why the plan specifically limits non-industrial supporting commercial uses. Policy compliance based on research claiming that it's locally serving rather than industrial area serving as required by our plan. It's just not accurate. And this leads me to really just directing your attention to the goals that led to the policy creation. And again, if you read through the goals, it's all about preserving the industrial use and minimizing traffic. Really, adding additional parking does not reduce traffic. The project is potentially traffic inducing, and I think the traffic issues are also cumulatively considerable when you consider the 3 other approved retail cannabis outlets. Now, in closing, I implore you to recognize the importance of the community planning areas policies in the decision-making process and support our plan's vision, goals, and policies for the Sorrento Valley industrial area. We believe the required findings cannot be met for this project. Now, looking at the particular CUP findings that are required, which state that the proposed project, in fact, number 1, the first CUP finding that the proposed development will not adversely change the applicable land use plan, we dispute that. And we believe that it's inconsistent with the goals and policies of our plan. And we believe that it will alter the vision of our plan has for the area. So we ask that either amend our community plan as required by the general plan or deny the project. Number 2, the proposed development will not be detrimental to public health, safety, and welfare. We believe that it will be. The project introduces an attractive nuisance a mere 1,000 feet from youth-oriented businesses along the most visible major arterial in this area, one traveled by thousands of vehicles a day. Yes, it'll be easier for SDPD to monitor, but this is a highly visible location, and the proposed use is not appropriate for the proposed location. If the project only serves a 3-mile radius as their VMT study contends, then how does that serve the interests of the district? 4 facilities are allocated within District 1. Why are they all located within several miles of each other? How does that serve the disenfranchised that are dependent on public transport to access these types of facilities? So locating 4 non-industrial supporting retail cannabis outlets 1,000 feet from youth-oriented businesses along a major circulation corridor really is not an appropriate use at this location. And now with regard to the CDP findings that mandate that the proposed coastal development be in conformity with the certified LCP land use plan, again, while it's an allowable use in the industrial zone with a CUP, this project relies on a VMT screening analysis that uses the capture rate of 3 additional cannabis outlets to limit the market capture area to less than 3 miles. Really, that's an underhanded attempt to justify a project that, again, doesn't belong. Locally serving does not equal industrial serving, and this is where we believe staff is mistaken. Please, we ask that you support the community's analysis and deny this project. It does not comply with the policies of our community plan, period. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Okay, do we have any other speakers in opposition? Becky Rapp.
Yes, good morning. My name is Becky Rapp. I'm a parent and a Torrey Pines Planning Group attendee. I find it outrageous that the city staff has recommended approval of this CUP. This project has been discussed at length at multiple planning group meetings and the project review committee, only to have the planning group unanimously deny the project. This project is a bad idea at this location for many reasons, but the primary reason is that it does not conform with the Torrey Pines general plan. Findings number 1 in the staff report states that the project will not adversely affect the land use plan, but the proposed project undoubtedly does this very thing. The Torrey Pines general plan defines allowable retailers, and cookies or bakery does not fall into this category. Cookies not only sells marijuana products, but a business name specifically targeted to young people, but positions themselves as a fashion icon, marketing their merchandise heavily on social media. To give you an idea of the magnitude, Cookies in San Francisco brand of clothing and merchandise is a full-on fashion and accessory line. They partnered with a highly regarded apparel sales guru, brand builder, to launch their mainstream fashion industry line. Retail businesses such as this applicant do not fall into the Torrey Pines General Community Plan. The applicant has also strategically sectioned off a portion of the very large 12,000 square foot building, allowing for 600 feet to be occupied by another business, creating a shared building and not a standalone business, hoping to exempt them from this requirement of the general plan. This is a loophole the applicant is taking advantage of in order to gain approval of this CUP. It is crystal clear that the retail outlet Cookies does not fall into the general plan, and I urge city staff to take a closer look. For these reasons, I ask you to deny the project and support the decision already unanimously concluded by the Torrey Pines Planning Group. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, other speakers in opposition? Ms. Lippett, Kathleen Lippett. Ms. Lippett, you can unmute your mic, identify yourself, and speak for 3 minutes. Can you hear me? I see your hand raised. One more chance. Maybe she's having a difficult time with her technology. Ms. Lippett, Kathleen Lippett. You've raised your hand. Looks like you want to speak, but I don't see you. All right, let's move on. Kelly McCormick. Ms. McCormick, I see your hand raised. Please unmute your mic. I don't see your tile, your face. I see that you have your hand raised, Ms. McCormick. No? No, Ms. McCormick? All right, let's try Matt Masterson. Or, did I get it right? Yeah.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, thank you for your time. Again, my name is Matt Masterson. I'm here representing Biomed Realty. We own the property directly to the north of where the project has been proposed to be located. Excuse me. Biomed Realty owns around 3 million square feet of lab buildings here in San Diego. We're headquartered in San Diego and believe strongly in the growth of life science and biotech within this area directly, as well as San Diego in general. It's Biomed's strong opinion that the cannabis outlet is neither suitable nor comparable land use adjacent to sites where science and research are conducted, and which is the case in this situation. Our tenant directly to the north, Halozyme, has expressed strong interest, strong opposition to us to this use. Their concern is security as well as the use in general. They are conducting trials and research 24 hours a day for cancer, and it's extremely disruptive to their operations. I think it should also be known that the life science and biotech market tends to cluster in areas around tenants that are doing the same research. When you stick a property like this with the marijuana use, it discourages these companies from locating in these areas. This area in general has begun to see lots of growth from this life science and biotech community. A lot of companies have started to look in this area and move to this area because of the location of Halozyme, as well as other life science and biotech companies within the area. If you stick a marijuana use in this area, this is going to discourage these companies from moving to this area, and furthermore, lose out on future tax revenue and growth for this industry. The industry in general has been squeezed out of spaces in Torrey Pines and UTC because of lack of supply. And this area in general is the next area that's going to grow and see a ton of growth from these sorts of companies. So in summary, we'd just like to say that we're extremely opposed to this and think that it agree with Becky and Adam in terms of it not being a congruent use with other types of uses within this area, and would like to see further growth from life science and biotechnology within this area. So thank you again for your time this morning, and we'll look forward to hearing what you have to decide. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, let's go back and see if we have Kathleen Lippett. No Kathleen Lippett? All right. How about Ms. McCormick, Kelly McCormick?
Yes, hello, this is Kelly McCormick.
Good morning.
First time I was being called on, the unmute prompt did not appear, so that's why I couldn't speak.
That's all right. Thank you.
I regularly attend the Torrey Pines Community Planning Board meetings where this project was justifiably denied approval. Cookies Bakery, of course, is not a pastry shop serving the breakfast and lunch needs of the Sorrento Valley industrial area workforce. It's a marijuana retail outlet and clothing store that will be serving the larger metropolitan area. Cookies does not comply with the industrial element of the Torrey Pines Community Plan, which requires that freestanding, which it is, retail commercial uses in industrially designated areas shall be restricted to those uses that serve only the immediate Sorrento Valley industrial area. This application says the market capture area of Cookies will be less than 3 miles. This defies belief. Given the substantial costs of opening a marijuana outlet, it's a sure bet they will be casting a wider net. The Cookies brand is widely advertised on billboards and in print ads and has a strong online presence. If they plan only to serve Sorrento Valley, why advertise so aggressively to the larger community? Commuters already contend with terrible traffic conditions in Sorrento Valley. This business will add to the congestion, and it will subvert the plan for this unique area situated close to UCSD as the growth of a biotech industry hub, which would bring high-paying jobs to San Diego. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. Okay, any other speakers in opposition? Do we have Kathleen Libet? Last chance.
Yes, yes.
There we go. Good
Thank
morning.
you. Again, my issue was exactly the same as the previous speaker.
Why don't you summarize it for us?
I'm sorry?
Why don't you summarize it? Your issues.
Oh, yes, thank you. Finding one, this project will adversely affect the applicable use plan. In particular, the community plan, as it undermines the requirement that retail businesses support existing businesses, not standalone retailers. City planning groups use long-term lenses to future development by accepting or rejecting projects based on compatibility. And Torrey Pines Planning Group has a history of consistently, equitably, and deliberately evaluating projects. Their efforts have created an environment conducive and compatible with the sophisticated high-tech businesses they envisioned. The planning group does not deserve to become a victim of their own success. Similar to other marijuana project applicants, Cookies has no concern for community plan compatibility or concern that their business might risk an exodus of the very businesses community has thus far attracted. Finding two, the project is detrimental to public health and safety. Cookies representatives promised to address the planning group's serious concern with their deceitful youth attracting DBA in consideration of the many nearby youth-oriented facilities. Marijuana businesses are routinely existing traffic congestion and increase the potential for driving under the influence. The highly combustible products sold pose a risk to this very high fire hazard severity zone. The welfare of the area community plan is put at risk. The existence of coasters, buses, mass transit, or bicycle modes do not guarantee that they will be used. The increased traffic and higher risk of customers driving under the influence risks community safety. The typical retail support businesses such as coffee shops or delis do not pose such a risk. Thank you very much for your time. That's all.
All right, thank you. Okay, do we have any more speakers in opposition? Judy Strang.
Good morning, hearing officer. Judy Strang here. I'm a Torrey Pines Planning Group attendee of 7 years. I live very close to the area under consideration, as do my children and my grandchildren. I'm well acquainted with the youth-sensitive facilities that were discussed, and I would respectfully suggest that they are within 1,000 feet, not as the map shows it, and that perhaps the map measurements were building to building rather than property line to property line. Having walked it several times, I'm quite sure, and others, I'm quite sure that it is within 1,000 feet. And one of the sensitive uses in the area isn't on the staff report, and that's the Learning Tree, which is just north of and east of the proposed pot shop. I find at least 2 of the findings incorrect. And although I appreciate staff's work on this, I'd like to suggest, and findings 1 and 2, I'd like to suggest that with finding 2, the idea that it won't be detrimental to public health and safety and welfare, a grave concern because of the definition of what public health and safety and welfare is. It's more than just whether there's a security guard or an alarm or a camera or signage or restriction of hours. It's about what it presents to the families and the youth of the area, particularly considering its closeness to the youth-sensitive areas. It sits right front center, an extremely busy road. And as previously stated, it is a fashion icon. Among the parents that I spoke with last week, they consider it the Tilly's of pot, not because Tilly's sells pot, but because the bakery, Cookies Bakery, sells multiple youth-oriented products, not the least of which are those products so that you can hide your pot from your parents. Hardly anything an adult would ever seek to do. I also am concerned about its very name. And they were asked by the planning group, couldn't they change their name from Cookies and Bakery? To my mind, that this is duplicitous and is a symbol of what we might expect from this business. Anyone who would pick that as a name, I think, should be suspect. Surely the community has a right to know what they're selling, and Cookies Bakery does not do that. I also would like to address finding number 1, and I was surprised with the BMT analysis. We should have had that at planning group. I thought that was a really unfortunate oversight, or as Adam's word used, candid. I think that's the way Adam put it. I'm going to add that to my vocabulary, under candid. And finding number 1, as you, I'm sorry?
The timer's going off, so I just wanted to let you wrap it up.
Oh, I'll
please.
wrap it up. I'll just wrap it up. Finding number 1 is about it not adversely affecting the applicable land use, and based on the fact that attachment 9 greatly describes how the planning group's plan and policies and goals and vision will be altered, I think speaks to the fact that this is going to adversely affect their land use plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other speakers in opposition? If there's any other speakers, please raise your hand, unmute your mic, identify yourself. I don't see anybody flagging us to speak. Give it a few more seconds. I think I covered everybody. Last chance, speakers in opposition. Okay, I'm going to close public comment. And I'm going to take a 5-minute recess. So could you please mute us? All right, I have questions for staff. I want staff to clarify how this meets the community plan. There seems to be that repeated theme amongst the speakers, especially the one from the planning board. So please respond.
Sure, I'll defer this question to Land Development Review Associate Planner Tyler Scher.
Okay. Mr. Sherman?
Hello.
Hello,
Can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right. So
Can you show us how this use fits in the community plan? There was a lot of opposition about how it does not.
sure. And I cannot speak to the vehicle miles traveled or the transportation study. A transportation review will have to address that. But per the policy that's been talked about here, this cannabis outlet is not freestanding retail. Freestanding, unfortunately, is not defined in the Land Development Code, but it's known to be basically defined as a freestanding use would be something that is unsupported, stands alone. This use is accompanied by an office use. The executive suites, approximately, I think, 624 square feet. So by our definition and review of the planning, the community plan, this use is not freestanding. Therefore, the determination was made that it conforms with that policy and the community plan.
Okay. While I have you up, Mr. Scherer, could you please, one of the speakers, let's see, let me identify. Ms. Strang identified an outfit by the name of the Learning Tree and suggested that it's within 1,000 feet. Do you have any knowledge of this particular use or outfit?
Excuse me, I am familiar with, it's called After School Learning Tree. It's located at 11525 Sorrento Valley Road, Suite A. From the maps that are generated showing 1,000-foot radius, the After School Learning Tree does not fall within the 1,000-foot radius. In my review, it's well outside by at least an entire site, an entire premises. So therefore, the use was not reviewed.
Okay. All right. All right. These uses are always difficult. There's always a strong opposition to make excellent points. So I just want to touch on a few things. First of all, it meets the intent. It's not freestanding retail. So whether some view that as a loophole, not the case. Mr. Scherer just defined it. That is how it's reviewed. So we cannot use that as a point of opposition. And we keep hearing the same, some of these things I can't even answer to, like the fashion icon, the Tilly's of Pot, and the name. I don't have say over how they name it. I believe that it meets the separation, even though Ms. Strang opposed that and said that it was within. The uses are within 1,000. There was no evidence in contrary to what the city has reviewed. So you can't just simply make the statement, and I take that as fact. I just want to say that the people of California voted for cannabis, right? It came to a vote. If they didn't want it, couldn't have it, but they voted for it. The city of San Diego adopted strict regulations. I know some feel that the regulations are not strict, but I've been in this business a long time and I do feel it's very strict. There's very limited locations where this use is even allowed. We had 4 allowed in this zone or this district. 1 went away. So this is just adding the 4th one back. I don't recall hearing any problems with this district and their outlets. But I will say it's very limited where these uses can be located. And we only allow 36 citywide. So this is just replacing the one that was rescinded earlier. The signage is very limited. So it's not going to be as attractive as I think some feel it would be. And I can't really accept the fact that other businesses will not go there because of this one outlet. I know this is a very popular area and it does have its mixed uses in their labs, retail, some other minor oriented type facilities. So it's a mixed bag out there. I don't feel like someone is just not going to occupy this area because there's a marijuana outlet. I don't think there's any evidence to support that whatsoever. I'm not going to be able to decide on how much of an area it serves. I realize the planning group wants like life science type of business, but that's not for us to decide in that respect. I mean, they come through and they propose their projects based on our regulations. I feel this meets everything that is required. I know Ms. Lippitt always brings up the combustible products, which is interesting because this is an industrial area and there's all kinds of combustible products and things that are flammable and dangerous, but those are addressed in their operation and their building permits. And it has to adhere to all our other regulations as well. So I don't see. I feel the parking is completely screened. Yeah, you know, there's just not enough for me to deny this thing. So based on the evidence and testimony, I can make all the necessary findings to approve this project. Pursuant to section 15301 of the California Environmental Quality Act, the project is exempt from environmental review, and I do recognize that exemption. The project is not pending an appeal of the environmental determination, which was made on February 26, 2021. The opportunity to appeal that determination ended March 12, 2021. Project 665-588, conditional use permit 2437093 and coastal development permit 2527091 is approved, subject to the conditions contained in the staff report. This decision is final unless appealed to the Planning Commission. Thank you. This concludes this item and today's docket. Thanks for joining.